Hi, everybody, and welcome to another live. Remember, my name is Anna Merced. I'm a clarity and confidence coach, and I will be live every Tuesday and every Thursday with different topics that most of the time I find very compelling that I've dealt with personally or with my own clientele. So thank you for tuning in once again. My name is Anna Merced. I'm a clarity and confidence coach. You can learn more about what I do and how I do it in my web page, www.annamerced.com. You could always follow me in Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is Anna underscore Merced underscore, and Facebook just by plainly Anna Merced. So it's Anna Merced everywhere. I hope that's easier for you guys to search and find. So today I am going to talk about something that I love. I incorporate this in every single webinar or masterclass I give, whether it's virtual or when we used to have it face-to-face, one-on-one. And the reason that I always go back to the same thing, or basically this is like a recurrent subject in all of my lives and in most of my webinars, is because I find personally, and when I do it with my own clients, I find that this is so powerful. But today I wanted to give it a little twist. And I'll call today's live is called What's Your Kool-Aid? And I don't know about you guys, but I was born in 1983. So back then, we're not that conscious about sugar intake with children. So everybody was allowed to have as many candy as possible. And we used to have a Kool-Aid, or a Tang. Here in Puerto Rico, we have something very similar to Kool-Aid. And it's basically, almost like Crystal Light. It's full of sugar for all those that have not taken that or have not given that to your kids. I don't recommend it. But when I was growing up, it was normal and everybody had their Kool-Aid in the morning. And then you were thinking, why are we so hyper during the day and why our teachers wanted to kill themselves? Because, we were so hyper. We had so much sugar. And today's topic is what's your Kool-Aid? And I compare our limiting beliefs and the things that hold us back to this Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid that you've been drinking. It was not good for you, but you still had it. Your parents served it and you had it. You just, and thank God you're good and we're good and up to normal to the extent that we know. But nowadays, we do know that Kool-Aid was not really good for us to have. And the same thing goes for values and limiting beliefs and beliefs and things that are just like holding us back, are things that we were served every single day of your life, things that you bought into unconsciously by default, not really caring about anything, just believing and buying it over and over and over. And when you're in this default mode, right, because you're working and you're working from home and you're dealing with your kids and you're doing so many stuff, and when life gets like really, really busy, you don't recognize it. You probably have not even been that much aware that you are actually in that Kool-Aid mode, but we are. And it's not until you realize that you are in that Kool-Aid mode, you're basically repeating the same thing your parents, your teachers, and your siblings, things that Kool-Aid is basically the things that you've always heard since you were small. You heard them consistently from your grandmothers, from your parents, from your siblings, from your teachers, and you constantly heard the same thing over and over and over. And if you don't take conscious of that, you find yourself as an adult in your professional and married areas of your life, repeating the same stuff over and over. And I say this because this is my biggest growth, personally speaking, and then with my clients, comes from identifying this Kool-Aid. What are the things that you always, just they serve them to you and you just literally just drank them and it's like, yeah, whatever, it is what it is. This is what my mother taught me. This is what I heard from my grandmother. This is what I need to do. And this is how things are done. But what happens? That usually works throughout most of our lives, maybe through our teenagehood and maybe, when you're a young adult, maybe perhaps in your 20s. But then eventually those things get old. And what happens is that this Kool-Aid is not serving you anymore. So it comes to a point where when you're ready, a point in your life where you feel these contradictions, these discrepancies within yourself. You feel like, oh my God, like my head tells me something, but I'm really feeling something else within myself. Like For example, and I have so many personal examples about this. Sometimes I everybody knows, if you follow me, you know that I spent 18 years in sales and marketing. So by the end of my career, almost towards my 17th year in sales and marketing, I was very tired and depleted, and whatever. Long story short, I just wanted out. And my body was physically aching from being there. I had so much contradiction within myself, because I knew by that time I was already a part-time coach, and I knew what I had to do. I knew that I had to move. I knew that I had to go in fully, and I had to leave completely my 8 to 5 job as a sales rep. But still, I was still within me. I was like, what the heck is happening? Why I don't get this shit straight, like within me. Because I'm a coach. I know what I need to do. My body's telling me what I need to do. I need to get the freaking out of here, because I'm just tired. I'm depleted. I can't take this anymore. But still, I was in such a conjunction within myself. I was really struggling. And when these things happened, it's because you have so much noise in your head. And sometimes, usually, I find the biggest awareness and the answer to my contradiction when I take a look at my Kool-Aid, at the limiting beliefs, at the stuff that I believed and never questioned, at the stuff that I repeated because it was repeated to me when I was a little girl. And one of the things is that, in this case, I was very independent. I was taught, and I heard always from my mother that you had to be independent and strong. And I managed unconsciously, and then I became aware of it, that for me, being independent had to do a lot with my job and what I did for a living. I was very successful to a certain degree, I would say. I mean, if you spend 18 years doing the same thing over and over again, eventually you'll get good at it. So, but it was really avoided. I had no passion for what I was doing. And there's so many other contradictions that I found in myself and within my clients. And most of these contradictions come from the battle that we struggle between the Kool-Aid that we drank, the things that we were bombarded, and the information that we received as little kids, and we still believe and hold on to them. So that information, that Kool-Aid, is basically stored in your mind. And then as you grow and start tapping into your true authentic self, there are certain things that rely within your heart that really don't match up with what's in your head. And that's when the battle, takes place within you. And that's when you don't feel peace. And when your heart is telling you something, but then your head is just like voiding it all the way. And this is very important. How do we straight out our Kool-Aid? You need, these are really uncomfortable conversations, so to speak. I tell my clients sometimes, and I tell myself, like, when it feels uncomfortable, then I am about to discover a new Kool-Aid that's holding me back from where I want to be and what's my real dream life. And it happened. It happens to my clients. It happens to me. So today, your first step is to ask yourself, what's holding me back? What's my Kool-Aid? What are the things that I've heard since I was a little girl, a little kid, that I repeated to myself and that I, without a question, just believed in? I also heard from my mother and my grandmother too as well, that every time you split it up or a relationship ended, that was constituted as a failure. It's a failure that you now are not together anymore. So I felt at times that I had to stay at relationships because from the outside, even when my heart was telling me you have to step out of this relationship, sometimes I stalled in, or I stayed in longer in those relationships, because I thought, what are people going to think about me? And then I just decided to believe that every time I needed to step out of a relationship, it meant that I was yet again failing at something. So we take a whole bunch of belief based on what other people think of us, about what we do. how we do it, the results that we have. We also tend to think, and I still to this day manage this personally. We tend to think, and this is one of my Kool-Aids that I'm currently working in, that whatever I want is separate from me. So I am here and my goals are out there. And this is really the basic of corporate America and the world that we basically live in here in America. We feel that we're here and there's always something out there that's better that we need to get our hands on, that we need to work consistently, that we need to hustle for. And hey, coaching business is probably based on that, right? Oh, hire me, I'm a coach, and you'll be able to crush your goals, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. My intake as a coach and my perspective here is to move my clients into a bigger and better awareness of themselves, in terms that if you become aware of what's internally holding you back, you would effortlessly get into the sync of your goal, into the flow of your goal. I believe that if we tap into our hearts and our true desires and our authentic self, I know for a fact that things just flow easier. They go easier within ourselves and the way that we go about things externally. So we gain more peace. And I also strongly believe that, the power of change comes from self-awareness. So wherever is your starting point, it has to be from the inside out. So today's question is, what's your Kool-Aid and what's holding you back? And sometimes if you're not used to having these conversations with yourself and confronting you in this way, it's kind of hard. And there are some assessments that could help you and that can help you, start opening the way and tapping into this introspective questioning. That's what we most of us do. That's our magic. We're our power as coaches, get you into those questionings and get you dive deeper and deeper as you go in and learning more and more about yourself, so you can rearrange, redefine, and redesign your life, right? The inside out. So I am going to put out here my Calendly link, so you can book a 30-minute call. We could talk briefly and I could give you some tips, and also I will forward you an assessment that would get you started into this, trying to discover this new questioning, this new self-awareness, trying to start, it will get you into the journey of discovering what's your Kool-Aid, what you're holding back, what are the things that you've been taught. And believe me, till this day, I still find every day contradictions within myself and Kool-Aids that I have to sort out in order for me to get me into the sync with my goal, in order for me to feel like I am one with my goal and one with what I'm doing. Until this day, I struggle as much, I search as much, and I do have a coach, because we coaches need coaches, because we're not meant to do this alone. I'm not meant to do this alone, and you who are listening to me are not meant to do this alone. So here is the start. Here's the first step into not doing this on your own. I know these kind of conversations are not likely to take place normally in our own inner conversations. We think about the things that we can do externally and not the things that we can do internally. But let me tell you something and burst your bubble right now. The answer starts from within. There's nothing that you could do externally that will last enough or last long enough for it to be permanent unless it comes from inside of you. So here is my link to my calendar. You can book a free 30-minute call, and I will gladly talk briefly over with you in the phone, give you some tips, and forward you an assessment that will help you get into the journey of start the journey inside out, which is discovering what's your Kool-Aid. So again, thanks for tuning in. My name is Anna Merced. Thanks once again for tuning in. I will see you guys next Thursday. Have a nice evening.